Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel, and this time this is going to be a complete course video in which we will build a complete decentralized application from scratch. And in this tutorial we will build expense management application, and this course is going to be a completely beginner friendly and especially for the developers who are new to the blockchain development and wanted to understand how to write smart contract code and how to integrate it with the front end. So in this tutorial, I have taken an example of expense management app which have following features. One function to add expense, second function for modifying the expense, and third for the deleting, and fourth to view all the expenses. And expense has three parameters. One is title of the expense, second is category, and third is amount. Let's jump directly to the Remix code editor. So this is the interface of Remix, which is developed by Ethereum team. And let me explain you like how this works. So this is a contracts folder where we have to write our solidity code, and this is a tab to compile this contract. And if it is all good, then we have to go to the deployment section and we have to deploy this code. So let's go to our file, and this is the code of the expenser app. So where you can see I've defined a variable for the owner to define the address of the owner, and the count, like how many expenses are there into the contract. And this is the mapping. So mapping of an expense ID to the structure of the expense, and this is the structure of the expense, which has title, category, amount, and timestamp at which it is created. And these are the events when the function is basically executed. So this is the expense added, expense modified, and expense deleted. So this is the constructor method which actually executed when the contract is deployed. So this is the function to view the expense by ID. So if we pass the ID as a parameter, and we can get the expense, specific expense which we have passed as an ID. So this is the function to get all the expenses. So what we are doing it here is we are taking all the expenses and adding a for loop, and we are iterating through it and just adding to this variable and then returning it to the contract. And then this is a function to add expense, and in this function you can see we have taken title, we have taken category, and the amount, and we are adding it and increasing the count of the expenses and emitting the event. So this is the way we can emit the event that we have defined at the top here. And let's go to the modify expense function. In this modify expense function, we are taking ID of the expense, title, category, and amount. So basically we will first find it out the expense, and then we will try to modify it. So this is where we have added a condition. If ID is less than the count, that means this expense does not exist. Then we have to return an error that expense does not exist in the list. And if exists, then we are modifying it, updating the title, category, amount, and updated block.timestamp. So block.timestamp is basically returning the current timestamp at which this function executed. And here again the event, we are emitting the expense modified, and this is the function to delete the expense. So again the condition is if ID is less than the count, then expense does not exist in the list, and if it is there, then we have to delete it and emitting the event. So this is all about the explanation of the code. Let's compile it. So once if I compile, this already green means our code is completely correct. Let's go to the deployment, and here let me explain few things. So first we have to choose the environment where we wanted to deploy this contract. So it is if I click here, so Remix virtual machine, injected provider. So we will choose injected provider because it is connected to my MetaMask. So I will choose Polygon Testnet for the deployment, and we will choose the contract file which we wanted to deploy. So I have chosen this expenser.sol, and let's try to deploy it. So once I click on the deploy, we will see a pop-up into our MetaMask. So let me confirm this, and let's wait for the confirmation from the MetaMask. And transaction is in queue. The transaction is successful and our contract is now deployed, and we can see the deployed contracts. So contract name is expenser, and this is the address, and it has all the functions: add expense, delete, modify expense list, and all. So we can also verify this by going to the on chain. So this Polygon scan. So let me put the address of the contract that we have copied from Remix, and this is the contract. We can see this transaction hash. So this is the transaction, and this is the block number which this contract is deployed, and this is deployed from this address ending with DB, and we can see my address is DB, and this is the contract creation. And if we go here, and we can see, and we can also add our expenses. We can delete the expense, and we can modify the expense. Let's try. Suppose one expense is mobile recharge, and category is utility, and the amount is 1000. So let me transact this, and MetaMask pop-up comes up, and let me confirm this transaction, and let's wait till this transaction confirm. And done. Our transaction is confirmed now, and we can see this expense by clicking over get all expenses. Yes, we can see it returned a tuple, and which have mobile recharge and utility and 1000 and this timestamp. So our contract is working. We can also delete this. So let me delete this. Go to the delete expense function and putting the ID 0, because this expense exists at 0 index. So once I click, the MetaMask pop-up should come, and yes, pop-up comes out. And let me confirm this transaction. So transaction is in pending state. Let's wait. So transaction is in queue. So our transaction is confirmed now, and if we go to the get all expense function, and we will see empty tuple. So let me click to the get all expenses, and we can see tuple is empty, and we don't have any data here. So this is how this smart contract works. We can add our expense, we can delete, we can modify, and we can also view all the expenses. So let's go to the Polygon scan and see how this contract looks like. So let me copy this contract address, and let me go to the Polygon scan, and let me paste this. And we can see all three transactions. One is for creation, and one is for addition of the expense, and second is for the deletion. So let's see how this transaction looks like. So this is the transaction details, where first parameter showing the transaction hash of the transaction, and second is status of the transaction, third is block at which this transaction is minted, and this is showing the timestamp. So this transaction is executed just 6 minutes ago. And from address means the address which initiated this transaction, and to address, because this is the contract creation, so it is showing the address of the contract here. And if we go here, we can see the transaction fee. So this is the transaction fee of the transaction, and the gas used by, and so many things are here, which we will discuss later in this video. So next step is to verify this contract, so that we can actually interact with our front end by directly to see this contract details. So let's go to the contract first, and click on the verify and publish, and select the compiler type. So this is a single file, and it is asking for compiler version. So our contract compiler version is 0.8.18 plus. So no license, and the compiler version is this, which is the latest one. So let me continue, and it is asking for the solidity contract code. So let me copy this whole code, and let me paste here, and it is asking for ABI. So go to the this section. It is written here ABI. Let's copy this, and let's paste here, and click I'm not a robot, and verify and publish. So our contract is verified now, and we can click over this, and we can see all the details here, code of the contract, contract ABI and contract creation code. And if we go to the read contract, we can see all the read functions are here, and we can also see the write functions which we have developed. So this contract is public now and anyone can access it with the URL. So next we will build frontend in using ReactJs to interact with this smart contract. And I hope you have learned something really good today about the Solidity, how to build smart contract, how to deploy them, and how to verify them. So if you really like my video and you have learned something new today, you can hit that subscribe button. And if you have any question in your mind, you can write it down into the comment section. See you in the next video.